it's the food that's motivating tonight's reason to get together, with the sort of 40s and 50s flavors particularly. I made some angel biscuits, and I'm serving those alongside buttermilk fried chicken. I can't wait to dig into that. But I've planned dessert too. I'm putting the idea of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with bread pudding together, and that is going to make a scrumptious dessert. First, I'll melt 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Half of that's for the bread pudding, the other half is actually just to brush on the pan. And I need to measure out some peanut butter. I'll let this melt for a minute. What I've done is actually dice up 6 cups of day-old egg bread. You can use regular bread, but the egg bread for bread pudding is my favorite because it's got a richness to it. The egginess is built into it. All right, got a square baking pan. And a square pan for bread pudding is traditional, and that way you can cut out square-sized pieces of the bread pudding. There we go. So brushed with butter, so that way it doesn't stick. And I'll leave the rest of the butter here. And with the heat still on low, I'll add 2/3 of a cup of peanut butter. Now you could use chunky peanut butter. I'm using creamy here. But you want to melt it in with the butter. And this, along with some milk, is sort of the base for the bread pudding. I'll just stir the peanut butter until it's melted. The peanut butter is quite fluid in there now, and I'll add 1 3/4 cup of milk. Now the milk is at room temperature. The heat's on low here, but if I were to add cold milk to the peanut butter, it would sort of seize up and turn lumpy again. There we go. But the milk cools it down enough that I can add the eggs. And of course a custard needs eggs, 2 egg yolks and 2 whole eggs. And the eggs, and then add those in. So this mixture now is completely at room temperature. Now the heat's off. And I need some sugar. The peanut butter I'm using has a bit of sugar in it. If you're using pure peanut butter, you could use up to half a cup of sugar, but I'm using 1/3 of a cup. And a generous dose of vanilla extract, 2 teaspoons. So now I pour peanut butter custard mixture over the stale egg bread. Give it a good stir. And now it's not quite ready to bake, even though essentially the recipe's done. But if I were to bake it right now, the center of each bread cube would actually be dry. So I'll let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then it'll soak up the peanut butter custard. Then I'll be able to pop it in the oven. So in the meantime, I'll preset the oven to 350 degrees. It'll be ready to go in that 10 minutes. And I want to use the Niagara Harvest jam for my bread pudding, but I did tell Anne how much I like the Niagara Sunshine with the apricots and the peaches. Like I said, no one knows how many biscuits I've made. Oh yeah, that's a bit of Niagara Sunshine. I'm using the hot water to actually help cook the bread pudding. Now that the bread pudding has sat for 10 minutes, you can still see the cube shapes. Now for Anne's fabulous jam, that combination of raspberry and strawberry and cherry. And I dollop enough on so pretty much every bite has a bit of jam in there. And then I sort of press it in gently, but just push them into the center. So now and again, when you cut into the bread pudding, there's a little pocket of the jam waiting for you. And while I want the inside of the bread pudding to be kind of squishy and soft, I like to have a little crunch on top. So a sprinkling of turbinado sugar, and it's kind of like brown sugar except drier, and it adds such a nice crust to the top of the bread pudding. If you can't find turbinado sugar, just using regular white sugar will work. I don't need the tea kettle at a full boil, but I do want it hotter than tap water because the water is actually part of how the custard cooks cooking in a water bath or with a bain-marie is a good way, and it's a gentle way to cook anything that has a lot of eggs to it. The oven's at 350, and then to make it easier, put the pan on the edge of the oven. And put bread pudding in. The hot water goes in and around. And I fill it just so the water comes halfway up the side of the pan, and that's enough to sort of keep the moisture in the oven and gently cook the bread pudding so the inside gets done at the same time as the outside. And like the good old days, you can't rush something that's worth doing right. It takes a full 50 minutes in the oven. And after that's done, I'll serve it. Ooh, should I serve it warm or cold? Because it's good either way. I'll decide that later on. Well, I've got my chicken done, the biscuits are done, and then the only thing for me to make is the zucchini lemon slaw.